green evening. Greetings to everyone world over in the different time zones, in the different countries, in the different continents, wherever you are. We pray to Almighty for your good health and your wellness so that you remain fit, you stay fit, and you can take care of the entire universe. Ladies and gentlemen, take care of yourself, your family, your friends, your neighbors, your community, your society, your civilization. Whatever best you can do for the humanity, please put in your best of efforts because this is the time when we need each other's support, each other's collaboration and cooperation. That is the way we have to move. So, hearty welcome to each one of you. Sunday evening, when it is about 6 minutes past 5 p.m. in India, and in different time zones, you are in different countries. So, ladies and gentlemen, enjoy your morning walk, enjoy your morning jog, your morning cup of tea, coffee, and people those are in Europe, you have enjoyed your lunch. So, wait for a while for your evening tea and coffee before you go for that. People those are in Central Asia, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Kyrgyzstan, hearty welcome to all of you. People in South Asia, right from Afghanistan to Bhutan to Sri Lanka to Nepal to Maldives, hearty welcome. And of course, our brothers and sisters, those are right over there in ASEAN countries, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, Brunei, Vietnam, all the beautiful countries, what we have got, 650 million plus population, what we have got over there. Wonderful. And then further going, we have got South Korea, you have got Taiwan, and then of course, couple of cities from Japan also. Lot of monks, they don't get sleep. I think they sleep for 4 hours and they get fresh. So well, it's about 11 p.m. for you. After this program, I would request all of you should go to sleep in the different cities. Then let me also take, because a lot of people from Bihar have gone to Mauritius, and our CMD Sahab, he had done a wonderful project in the Port Louis in the Mauritius, I still recall. And then we have got Seychelles, we have got Africa. Africa is also next to the heart of Ravindra Nath ji because a couple of projects being taken up during his tenure in the NSIC right over there. And thereafter, we get you back to the भारत में हिमाचल के लोग देवभूमि बोलते हैं, तो मैं तो पूरी भूमि को ही पवित्र भूमि और देवभूमि बोलता हूं। तो उस सारी भूमि को प्रणाम करते हुए आप लोगों को आज की शाम बहुत बहुत स्वागत है। We have got a very distinguished guest, ladies and gentlemen, with us, Umang Das ji, and he's the chairman, Foreign Investors India Forum, India Center in Singapore. And along with him, we have got Ravindra Nath ji, the former chairman and managing director, National Small Scale Industries Corporation. And he is the person, it is his brainchild, this particular program coming to the entire universe under his dynamic and dedicated leadership. Now, our chamber, ICSI, International Chamber for Service Industry, you've got different verticals in India. You've got CII, you've got FICCI, you've got PhD House Chamber of Commerce, you've got SHM, you've got IMA. They all are doing wonderful job, remarkable job. Great regards to all of them, salutations to them, and we pray to Almighty, they should keep doing the good job to the humanity what they are doing. At the same time, ladies and gentlemen, since 1994, our chamber is basically in the confluence, collaboration, podlocking, getting together, all the non-resident Indians. The thought had come back way back in 1988, and till 1993, it was getting germinated. 1994, it got the shape from the seed to the plant. And 1994, for the first time in India, 6,000 plus non-resident Indians from Punjab in the different countries world over, they got together on a common platform. And that was the humble journey, Punjabi Parvasi Divas. In 2003, thereafter, the delegation from the Punjabi Parvasi Divas having met then the Honorable Prime Minister of India, late Shri Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji, and he was a visionary and he was a statesman, and he mentioned it's a very good job which is being done, Punjabi Parvasi Divas. I think with Punjabi Parvasi Divas, let's start Bharatiya Parvasi Divas also. It will be very good because a lot of people besides Punjab from the rest of India have also gone abroad to different countries. Why not to get them together? So that particular journey was created. And from there, ladies and gentlemen, when we look at, it's very important to understand that 2003, the Bharatiya Pravasi Divas started, and from there he asked a question: when do you celebrate? On which day? So everybody very enthusiastically mentioned, sir, it is 13th of January. That's a Lohri festival for Punjab, very famous. And that is the time when most of the NRIs from abroad are in Punjab and nearby places. He said, very good. You keep doing on 13th of January. And I would strongly recommend, let's have Bharatiya Pravasi Divas on 9th of January, because Mahatma Gandhi ji returned from South Africa to India on 9th of January. So ladies and gentlemen, that is the birth of Bharatiya Pravasi Divas in India. And from there, when we move on, at present 30 million plus people abroad in the different countries, our chamber dedicated to services sector. And during this pandemic and coronavirus, we are working on making education relevant Monday to Sunday. And that is basically how to empower educators, how to empower teachers, how to empower youth, and how to bring the entire global fraternity together on a common platform. Our chamber starts its service in the morning at 9 o'clock, and we finish this journey at 9 p.m. That's a 12 hours non-stop beaming throughout the world to the different countries, to the different continents, and it is totally complimentary without charging anything from anybody. Basic aim is that during the COVID, किसी की कोई भी मदद हो सके, किसी के साथ आप कुछ भी जुड़ सको, किसी के लिए ह्यूमैनिटी में कुछ भी अच्छा कर सको, तो उसका हमारा प्रयास रहना चाहिए. ये हमारा पूरे हफ्ते का कैनवस है, so that you get the complete spectrum. People, those are joining us from the world over, from the different countries today, I wish to share with all of you the title of the whole global, this particular webinar series is Making Education Relevant. शिक्षा को प्रासंगिक कैसे बनाएं? शिक्षा का मतलब क्या है? कोई स्कूल में क्यों जाए, कोई कॉलेज में क्यों जाए, कोई भी स्किल को एक्वायर क्यों करे, और भारत पहले विश्व गुरु कैसे था, भारत सोने की चिड़िया कैसे था, पहली शताब्दी से लेकर 15 शताब्दी तक क्या हो रहा था भारत में, मैकॉले ने आके यहाँ पर क्या किया, उसने एजुकेशन सिस्टम को कैसे डिस्ट्रॉय किया, पहले कोई एम्प्लॉयमेंट के लिए किसी के पास जाता ही नहीं था और किसी को कोई बेरोजगारी नहीं थी, ऐसा क्या था? Anyway, in that particular series, ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud. On 3rd of October, we got a global confluence, and that was wonderful. Non-resident Indians, they got together from America, different parts. They got together from the entire European Union, and we had the deliberations, how to reform and how to empower with the help of non-resident Indians, the entire higher education ecosystem in India. And we talked about the soft skills, we talked about the micro, small, and medium enterprise as well. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we are for the youth. Friday, we go to Buddhism and what is the Buddha's teachings and what is the relevance of Buddha's teaching in today's education. Saturday, we go to Swami Vivekananda ji, where we talk about what is Vedanta and what is exactly the teaching of Vivekananda, what is the relevance of that in education and empowerment for the youth. Then Saturday evening, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we have got only 2 programs. Saturday, we have got only 1 program. Saturday, we have got 2 programs. Sunday, we have got 3 programs. So this being the last Sunday, we start early in the morning at 9:30 from America, and where we talk about Srimad Bhagavad Gita, and we talk about India's 10 principal Upanishad. And Professor Satyendra Dhiman, he comes live for 1.5 hours from United States, California, Burbank, Woodbury University, and he talks to all of us, what is the significance, विद्या से अध्यात्म विद्या की और की जर्नी क्या है, और हमारे वेदों में क्या छुपा है, हमारे उपनिषदों में क्या है, वो सारी की बातचीत करते हैं. और इसी प्रोग्राम से थोड़ा सा पहले हम इंडिया आसियान सीरीज की बातचीत करते हैं, ट्रेड की बातचीत करते हैं, और अब संडे का ये जो लास्ट कार्यक्रम है, दैट इज माइक्रो, स्मॉल एंड मीडियम एंटरप्राइज, क्योंकि आखिरकार जो विद्या ले रहे हैं, कहीं ना कहीं सहरोजगार, रोजगार, कहीं ना कहीं कुछ ना कुछ तो चाहिए जीवन के निर्वाह के लिए. तो स्टार्टअप, स्टैंड अप, माइक्रो, स्मॉल, मीडियम, कोई भी एंटरप्राइज के अंदर आप हैं तो आप कैसे आगे बढ़ेंगे, क्या करेंगे, ये पूरी जर्नी है. सो लेडीज एंड जेंटलमैन, आवर चेंबर स्ट्रांगली बिलीव्स व्हाटएवर ह्यूमन माइंड कैन कंसीव एंड बिलीव इट कैन अचीव. जब आपके दिमाग में कोई बात आ जाए, आप अपने मस्तिष्क में कोई धारणा ले लें कि ये तो आपको करना ही है, तो आपको कोई नहीं रोक सकता, आप उसे कर सकते हैं. परमात्मा ने हमें वो शक्तियां दी हैं, और ये सब कुछ हमारे अंदर जो ब्रह्मांड चल रहा है वो बहुत कुछ कर सकता है. सो लेट्स मेक एजुकेशन रेलेवेंट. global confluence of educators, motivators, technocrats, counselors, wellness experts, corporate, government administrators, decision makers, all of us together. You can send your suggestions. You can send us your views. You can also come and join us on the WhatsApp. Education का purpose क्या है? Ideal education is to remove the ignorance. हमारे दिमाग से, हमारे मस्तिष्क से और हमारे को इग्नोरेंस से रिमूव करना, और उसी के साथ साथ जो नॉलेज है, जो कॉम्पिटेंसी है, जो विजडम है, वो हमारे एजुकेटर और हमारे यूथ में लेके आना ग्लोबल पीस के लिए। मानव मानव के साथ क्यों लड़ रहा है, किस लिए लड़ रहा है? हथियार भी मानव बना रहा है, देवी मानव ही हथियार रहा है, और लड़वा भी मानव रहा है, और लड़ भी मानव रहा है। और किसके साथ लड़ रहा है? मानव के साथ ही लड़ रहा है। So we all got to understand what exactly is there. Now this entire program, what we bring the MSME, this is on every Sunday, that is, ladies and gentlemen, 5 o'clock onwards, what we have got a program under the dynamic and dedicated leadership of Shri Ravindra Nath, the former chairman and managing director, National Small Scale Industries Corporation. He served as the chairman of the NSIC, a public sector enterprise, till September 2018. And besides that, he has worked in the various corporate head position, in the financial sector, public sector, private sector, and about 3 decades experience which he carries with him for the finance, accounts, and management. So particularly when I talk about the MSME sector, ladies and gentlemen, he is dedicated, he is devoted, and he has given his entire life to this particular sector, to empower it, to enrich it, to hold it, to strengthen it, and to give the vision to the entire younger generation. किसी के पास रोजगार के लिए मत जाइए, अपने ही रोजगार, सह रोजगार के लिए बातचीत कीजिए। आत्मनिर्भर भारत की भी ये बात करते हैं और आपसे करेंगे। माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी के एजेंडा को भी आगे लेकर चलेंगे। So Ravindra Nath ji, he was actively engaged in promotion and development of the MSME, as well as entrepreneurship development programs, creating collaborative environment to promote technology transfer, joint ventures, MSME के बीच में, इंडिया में और बाहर के विदेशों में भी. And he has been conferred with the various distinguished awards, including CMD of the Year Award of June 2015 for his outstanding exemplary role which he has done for the MSME sector, particularly in our country. Outstanding Leadership Award conferred by Fore and the Top Rankers in 2018 for achieving business excellence through creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurship. He's a moving legend. He's a living legend who is doing great. This evening, we are privileged. It's a proud privilege that from Singapore, we have been joined by Mr. Umang Das ji. He's the chairman of the Foreign Investors India Forum, India Center, Singapore. Mr. Umang Das ji is a telecom veteran having around 50 years of diversified work experience from 1970 onwards in industry, and with the last over 30 years in telecom sector since the inception of the telecom privatization process in 1987. He has been holding several prestigious positions in the industry as a chairman of the Foreign Investors India Forum, India Center, chairman of the Broadband India Forum, Policy and Regulatory Group, chairman ASSOCHAM Digital Society, co-chairman of the CII, National Committee of Telecom and Broadband, special advisor ATC India, and chief mentor Wyoming Network. That is something very important. Vice chairman of the Tower and Infra Providers Association of India. He is also having his independent consulting and advisory company, UR Consultancy and Impacts Private Limited, as in on the advisory board of emerging companies in tech space via, or that is Space World Group, Costlight India, and Chaudhary Group of Nepal. Earlier on, he has been Managing Director and CEO of Spice Telecom, Modi Telstra, the company which made the first mobile call in India on 31st July 1995. Prior, while in Crompton Greaves, his first company from 1970 onwards, he led the privatization process of telecom in India in 1987 and also pioneered the independent passive telecom infrastructure sharing business model from Spice Telecom in 2005. Umang Das ji is an active Rotarian and is involved in several social welfare initiatives. So, ladies and gentlemen, with these words, let me drop the curtains and bring my distinguished guest Umang Das ji and Ravindra ji right on this platform, which we can take on. So I would request Ravindra Nath ji to take on the center stage and to just work out and start today's proceedings.
Thank you, Dr. Gulshan Sharma. Thank you for such generous words. But I must, at the outset, compliment you for having taken this series of webinars beyond 200. It was not long back that when I was uh, remembering that you make me recall Sunil Gavaskar. And when Sunil Gavaskar used to complete his century, he used to take a fresh guard for and start working towards the second century. Perhaps you will move on to the third century onwards, and my best wishes for that. We are also privileged today, and my deepest regards for Mr. Umang Das to be on our program and sharing his great views which he carries, his great experience which he carries in the diverse positions which he has been holding. So thank you very much, sir, for having kindly agreed to be on this program of ours. Technology has been very kind. It could battle the COVID pandemic and still make people connected. And that is what makes me greet all the participants of this program from across the world. And apart from technology, the one thing which really connects us all across the world are the MSMEs. COVID pandemic might be thinking that, well, it has put everything together. The entire world is suffering, but the sufferings are lessened by our brethren in the MSME sector. Worldwide, it is agreed that MSMEs constitute over 90% of the total enterprises in most of the economies, and they are the engines of economic growth for promoting equitable development. Even in India, SMEs with low investment requirements, operational flexibility, capacity to develop appropriate technologies, they have the power to propel our country to new heights. This is what we are all looking up to. And the MSME sector, it's all widely accepted, is the backbone of our national economic structure, providing it the resilience to ward off global shocks and the ramblings of the global and domestic economies, which are very, very visible and perceptible in today's times. But then they have such a key role to play in the overall growth of the economy that I am compelled to touch base upon a few things before I really move on. One and foremost is they promote inclusive growth. By providing employment opportunities in rural areas, especially to people belonging to the weaker sections of the society, then they facilitate financial inclusion. We all see that these days, small industries, retail businesses in tier 2 and tier 3 cities create opportunities for people to use banking services and products. They also promote innovation, providing an opportunities for budding entrepreneurs to build creative products, boosting business competitions, which all fuels growth. And nonetheless, they also contribute in a very big way to the exports of our country. I was reading the figures that from 43% in 2012-13, it has reached 49% in 2017-18. I was looking at the figures which were there in the RBI's report. And of these exports, the non-traditional products account for more than 95% of the MSMEs exports, dominating in exports of sports goods, ready-made garments, plastic products, etc. And since these products are mostly handcrafted, eco-friendly, there exists a tremendous potential to expand the quantum of MSME-led growth. But despite being called with great accolades, MSMEs still have a lot of issues on hand. They have to overcome the challenges. They have to improve themselves to sustain. They have to compete globally by lowering their costs, improving their qualities, adopting various innovative practices, upgrading technology, and that is what makes them combat various challenges which come in front of them. Fortunately for us, the government has been quite adaptive to the requirements of the sector, to the requirements of the times. And that is when we say that the MSMEs, they have the challenges of credit, with 90% of the MSMEs dependent on informal sources of funding and lack of sufficient collaterals, which is a big factor in getting even their working capital needs fulfilled. Our Honorable Prime Minister and his government has been very proactive in coming by with a 59-minute loan portal, providing interest subventions to GST registered units, and even making trade to enable them access credit from banks based on the supplies which they made. Another area where they find a lot of challenges, access to markets. They have a very low outreach, non-availability of new markets, lack of skilled manpower and ineffective marketing strategies, branding hardly visible when you look at the real MSMEs, the smaller ones especially, and competition from MNCs and bigger industries, really making it difficult for them to survive. But I was listening to recently that our Honorable Minister for MSME was coming out with a concept that the ministry would be coming out with a Bharat Craft, an e-commerce portal dedicated for the MSME sector, which will be almost on the lines and will be replicating the success stories of Alibaba in China and Amazon in US. And also, the share of procurement from public sector has been increased to 25% of procurements to happen from micro and small enterprises, and for almost 40,000 plus units already registered on the government e-market portal. All these are basically to strengthen, to handhold. But coming on the issue of exports, the challenge before the MSMEs, which I find, is the low quality products, the inadequate access to quality raw materials, and the use of traditional machines, non-availability of the latest technologies. But again, here, if you find that the government has come up with financial support to the MSMEs in zero defect, zero effect certification to improve the quality of the products. Government also provides subsidies towards the expenditure incurred in obtaining the product certification licenses. And all these, especially in terms of the thrust given on the ease of doing business. Because there were cumbersome government procedures, rules in establishing new units, the bureaucratic delays in getting clearances, the litigation system, which was quite slow, but all these involvement of the governments have enabled that India's rank improved from 142 in 2014 to 77 in 2019 report and 63 in 2020. But despite making these global headlines for a steady increase in the World Bank ease of doing business, the one challenge which remains is we have not been able to do much when it comes to attracting private investment. That is what is really hampering us. For a developing country like India, the foreign direct investment, or the FDI, which we call, is considered as the most preferred route amongst the source of foreign capital. And this is what is badly needed if we have to really build on our country's infrastructure, on our country's technologies, on our country's joint ventures, so as to lift the entire morale of the MSMEs also, which so far have been playing the role which is expected of them. But then, as we all agree, FDI acts as a catalyst to the economic growth by increasing the investment rate and allowing technology transfers, enhancing the efficiency of the human capital, increasing the competition, and contribution to exports growth. But why is it that despite such an increase in our ease of doing business rankings, we still lag behind. In my view, it is the uncertain regulatory framework in India which impacts most global companies looking to set up manufacturing operations in our country. We do need laws that protect large investors from localized regulatory changes that fundamentally alter the business viability. Even you would be finding that the states are competing with each other as to how much more they can give. But I believe they should proactively engage with the potential companies, with the trade associations, with the business chambers, and work closely with the state governments, with the central government, so that an environment is created which attracts the foreign companies to set base in India. Even in times of this COVID pandemic, we were all hearing that companies are finding it easy to move out from China and to set base in India. Well, there are other countries around, and I've seen companies working in Korea, in Vietnam, in Japan, in Thailand, in Philippines. The efficiency levels, the decision-making levels, which are all together at a different scale. It is this which is we feel is needed, that we should create an ecosystem which attracts investors, which makes projects viable, and which leverages states to their inherent strengths. But when it comes to attracting investments, India needs to position itself as a key hub in global value chains. It's this background which I wanted to set, because I've been hearing from Mr. Umang Das that his forum is largely concentrating on bringing in foreign direct investments and companies to India. So at this juncture, sir, I would like to pass it on to you and hear your views as to what India needs to do so that we not only make our companies competitive by making collaborative arrangements with these foreign companies, we also bring in the best of the foreign direct investments, which would go a long way in creating the infrastructure and the ecosystem which is required. So without much ado, sir, I would like to hand it over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ravindra Nath. I think this was a very, very insightful assessment and analysis by you of the MSME sector. And to begin with, I would like to, first of all, congratulate Dr. Gulshan Sharma and the manner in which he presented ICSI. And I must say that your title of motivational speaker, I think you really live up to that. And I think the manner in which you have gone ahead and globally addressed yourself to the audience and participants here speaks volumes of your passion and your interest. And I wish ICSI all success in the endeavors that you have initiated and over the years. I'd also like to, Ravindra Nath ji, thank you very much for the invitation and the fact that the Rotary contact of mine led me to getting in touch with you through Mr. J.P. Malhotra. I don't know whether he's here or not today, but my contact with you, and I'm beholden to him, is for being able to meet you through the internet world. So this is really very interesting, and the fact that you have been conferred with so many awards, the CEO of the year, the CMD of the year, they all indicate how deeply engrossed you have been in the growth of the industry and the MSME sector in particular. And therefore, congratulations to you for being the convener of this MSME webinar series. I believe this is the second one, and there's another one to follow a week thereafter. Sure. So it all shows that with focus, a lot of things can be done. And while you have mentioned about the challenges to the MSMEs, I'm also very confident that with people like you and with industry associations, they will play a very critical role in the growth of the MSME sector in India. So with those words, I'd like to share some thoughts with you. It is more an exchange of views, because I do believe that all of us in one way or the other can contribute to the larger objectives of the country. And therefore, in the next 15 to 20 minutes, I'll share with you the outlook from which I'm going to share and discuss with you. And possibly this will have some impactful advantage from the MSME sector also. For example, if you look at the global geopolitical developments, while COVID-19 has been a kind of a game changer which has changed our worldwide outlook in this year, and I think it's a new set of norms that we are all discussing. But we have to see that from an India point of view, how we can leverage COVID-19, the economic shock which has come out of this, to be able to attract greater investments from foreign investors and enable a faster economic recovery for us. As you know, the focus of the Foreign Investors India Forum has been more to promote investments by foreign investors who will be able to look at the value of India. And we, in my role as the chairman of the India Center, is to ensure support in terms of policy frameworks which will facilitate the entry decisions of the foreign investors. Obviously, this will be achieved only by working closely with various industry forums. And it is in that context that I would seek further and further partnership with ICSI and the MSME forums that you are championing. And at the same time, this has been the strategy of the Foreign Investors India Forum to partner with other leading chambers so that we, instead of having to spend a lot of time in only building up the image of FIIF, we work on the larger image of how do we bring in foreign investors by working closely with those forums who have already been doing some good work. So we are therefore tied up with the US-India Strategic Partnership Forum. We are tied up with the Singapore-India Chamber of Commerce. We are tied up with several other key chambers in US, in addition to US ISPF. The whole idea is that we all work in an interdependent partnership format so that we are able to sell the India concept. How do we attract foreign investors to come to India? And I would like to therefore, first of all, differentiate between what we mean by foreign strategic investors versus financial investors. Foreign strategic investors, by definition, are people who look at business from a long-term perspective, who would like to set up their businesses in India for existing products, new products, whatever, and be part of the global supply chain, and will have a long-term thought process, notwithstanding the ups and downs of business cycles, because these things happen. The difference of foreign strategic investors versus financial investors is that they invest in shares, debentures, real estate, trading, more from an ROI perspective, and many of them have fixed-term investments. So their outlook is quite different from strategic investors who would have a much longer perspective and who would bring in their money, not only for the sake of money, but for partnering with Indian counterparts. So I think that is one very fundamental aspect, which is what FIIF is championing. And FIIF itself is an associate member of the Global Citizens Forum, which was championed and led by a global chairman, Dr. B.K. Modi, who lives out of Singapore, but is a global citizen in all senses of the term. He is an industrialist and a philanthropist. And by virtue of that, he has positioned himself on a global platform. And the FII and the Global Citizens Forum was essentially to promote the cause of one world in the context of beyond gender, beyond nationality, beyond borders, beyond religions, to promote peace and to harmony amongst the people, and therefore a free flow of people coming and going. FIIF, which was in a way an offshoot of the Global Citizens Forum, was started sometime last year, primarily with the objective, as I said, of encouraging foreign strategic investors to come and live in India, be comfortable here, and then bring in their businesses, partner with Indian counterparts, and become part of the global supply chain. This is even before the pandemic overtook us. Foreign investments, for which it is important that the Indian government also realigns its thinking and its priorities in the context of addressing the investors' needs and perceived impediments. It is therefore important for bodies like us to recommend policies and espouse our policy proposals in a manner such that the proposition is a win-win proposition. And therefore, When we look at the impact of the COVID-19 to India and in the global economy, as you rightly said, there is a likelihood that an overall drop in the GDP worldwide may be anywhere in the region of 6 to 7%. India may be even more affected because our corporate sector was already undergoing a slowdown. And the pandemic has been like a double whammy with the lockdown, which has led to a severe demand contraction also. So at the same time, the foreign direct investments in India on an average have been $40 to $50 billion. In Indian rupees, it would be about 3 to 4 lakh crores annually. But 80% of those investments are coming from financial investors who are, I would call them fair weather friends, and can withdraw their funds when the going is unfavorable. They are not strategic investors who take a long-term view of their business investments and really add value to the business GDP. Hence, we must take steps of policy reforms and attract foreign investors, as you rightly said, Ravindra Nath ji, and who can take us to play a key role in our achieving our dream of what our Honorable Prime Minister talks of the $5 trillion economy in the next 3 to 4 years. Currently, we are, as we closed last year, I'm told is about $2.7 trillion. So we are more or less talking of doubling our economy. So at a fantastic pace, which will lead us to a double in the next 3 to 4 years. It's a very, very firm objective in the minds of the government, but steps are required to ensure. And one important step will be that when we develop policies for the foreign investors, it is not that we are doing them a favor, it is where we have to incentivize them, invite them, and make them feel good, and not the other way around, as if their coming here is a favor that we are doing to them. So as things are evolving, at current times, USA and the developed economies are already facing the supply chain challenge because of the disruption due to COVID-19, especially from China. And it is expected that these disruptions will find no ready-made or quick solution. So these countries are therefore focusing on alternative destinations towards what I may call a China plus one strategy to reduce their dependency on one country alone. This situation also becomes an opportunity for us. At the same time, this opportunity is incidentally not open only to us. It is available to so many fast-growing economies in the developing world, particularly when we look around amongst the ASEAN countries and we look at Vietnam, Indonesia, Singapore, Korea, Thailand, and so on. So this growing interdependency amongst developed countries and developing countries, or fast-growing countries, also makes us shift our business opportunities and our priorities which we should assign. And maybe it is also a signal for the MSME sector that what are the new opportunities which are coming up. For example, I would say wellness and healthcare center. This has emerged as a major requirement, particularly post-pandemic happenings. And the Indian industry has really come up in a big way in being able to build up those things which we were not even manufacturing earlier. Similarly, IT and telecom, this has become the backbone of our connectivity. New technologies which are emerging, artificial intelligence, robotics, smart devices, and components industry which will emerge arising out of the main devices. And in the electronics sector, this is very much prevalent. You have heard of Apple and Samsung, but then we have also heard that a whole lot of new component industries are emerging to meet the emerging demand from a global scale. So the MSME outlook is not limited to what they can do in India, notwithstanding the challenges which are there, but at least in terms of outlook and approach into the global market. At the same time, we can see in the businesses like e-commerce, infrastructure and connectivity, smart cities towards ease of living. These are all sectors which are emerging in India, which can play a significant role for the main players and therefore concomitantly with the components industry. Further, in our economy, given the fact that our investable resources have been affected anyway due to the demand contraction, foreign capital inflow has, I would call it, become an imperative to sustain our investment plans. And it may represent almost 30 to 40% of our investments plan or budgeted for. So foreign investments from investors will play a crucial role in India's economic recovery as also achieving a $5 trillion growth vision. Therefore, in terms of numbers, if I may share with you, when we say doubling of FDI, what do we mean? Today, $40 to $50 billion is what our annual intake is as far as FDI is concerned, out of which, as I said, 80% of it is from financial investors. This we need to literally double to over $100 billion. $40 to $50 billion, by the way, is about 1.8 to 2% of our GDP. So therefore, when we are talking of going to about $100 billion, we are effectively saying that we need to be about 4% of our GDP, looking at it in the region of 2.5 to $2.7 trillion. And if we are to achieve our objective of $5 trillion economy, then 4% of that would mean close to $200 billion. So if we were to look at it in a stepped manner, from our current $40 to $50 billion, we need to double it to $100 billion on a more immediate scale. And as we see the next 3 to 4 years, it should be going up to $200 billion. You can imagine what is the growth and the scale which is required, and what is the importance of the capital inflow which will be needed for our growth strategy. And along with that is the challenge of the quality of investments. Because as I said, we need to change the mix from just financial investors to strategic investors who have a stake in India and who wish to be partners and live in India for an extended period of time, to bring with them their technical knowledge, their management of global markets, a global mindset, and of course, best practices. They need to partner with their Indian counterparts, particularly in our aspirational areas involving cutting-edge technologies such as artificial intelligence, blockchain, and other new technology startups. They can also build up in India on our own strength of back-end technology. Because as you know, India is considered to be a back-end center for several global players, and we are well positioned to take this as this starting point for attracting new startups and new players who could partner with our Indian counterparts, including in the MSME sector. And geographically, as you know, in the country, we talk of more of Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu type of trio. In West, we talk of Maharashtra and Gujarat. But at the same time, emerging in the North is the Gurgaon, Haryana belt. It is the Noida, West UP belt, as also Delhi itself. So there are emerging areas. East also is now opening up its areas. So all said and done, there are several opportunity areas and new technologies which will have to look at it in a fresh breath and fresh manner, rather than being only overcome by the difficulties and challenges which we anyway face. So while we are doing that, I think we should also realize that it's a competitive world. And in that competitive world, as Ravindra Nath ji pointed out also, we have to take a note of some of the current realities. You were talking of the ease of doing business, for example. I did a comparative table. If we look at ease of doing business, Singapore today is the second in the world. India is 63rd in the world. As you pointed out, this is no doubt an improvement over 77 or 142. But on a comparative scale in the world, we are still 63rd. If you look at our global competitiveness, if Singapore is 4th, India is 42nd. If we look at our top 10 cities in Asia, it starts with Singapore, Shanghai, Hong Kong, Tokyo, Seoul, Beijing, Taipei, Melbourne and Sydney, and Bangkok. India doesn't find any name at all. India is nowhere. Similarly, when we look at our regional headquarters, we look at the Fortune 500 companies. If you look at the top 50 companies, not a single company has its regional headquarters in India. They are all generally either in Singapore or Dubai or such other locations. So we have to ask ourselves that if we are really keen and clear that $5 trillion is our economic goal, it is a goal that, and we understand that foreign direct investments will play a fundamental role in that, then we really have to change our mindset to the policies that are required. One such example of that is taxation. If you look at Singapore, Singapore's taxation policy, they do not charge global income tax at all. They do not charge tax on global income. They only charge tax on what is the income generated within Singapore. The policy of taxation, which I would like to delve upon for a couple of minutes, is based on two principles. One is source-based taxation. The other is residency-based taxation. Source-based taxation is the kind of example which I quoted to you of Singapore. There are other countries who talk of residency-based, but actually come up with several special dispensations or very innovative approaches so that in effect it becomes source-based. Let's take the example of the biggest player that we are all talking of competing with, China. China, on the face of it, calls itself a residency-based principle. But actually, the way it is operated is that they have 6 consecutive years. And if in 6 consecutive years, the resident concerned exceeds 182 days of stay, he will be considered as a Chinese citizen and will have to pay tax on the global income. But if in any one of those 6 years, he spends less than 183 days, then the clock is reset and he doesn't have to pay tax on his global income. Also, within those 6 years, if in any 1 month he has gone out of China for more than 30 days, the clock is reset and he does not have to pay tax on the global income. So what on the face of it appears to be residency-based is actually a means of encouraging them to come to China, live in China, and they do not have to pay on their global income tax. I mean, I'm giving you 2 extreme examples. Singapore, which is a relatively smaller country, but a very attractive destination, and of China, which is perhaps the factory of the world as of today. So if you look at that, and we then look at our India policy, we charge on global income. And on top of that, when we talk to the government, they say that there is a method of double taxation treaty. You can get a refund. But it is fraught with too many complications. The most obvious is that the tax structure may differ. So for example, if India, it comes to anywhere around 40% plus. In Singapore, it is 17%. So when you do a double taxation treaty adjustment, the adjustment is on the principle of 17% in Singapore, not on 40%. So these kind of things worry the strategic investors, because we are not talking of only the Apples and the Googles and the Facebooks. We are also talking of a huge number of medium-sized industries who in the new technologies are very keen to come to India, but who consider these as major deterrents because the owners, investors themselves will shift to India. They will come with their team. And if they have to pay on global taxation, it's a major, major concern for them. So I'm voicing to you that if you look in terms of current realities, there are a whole lot of gaps which we have to address. And since I am quite convinced that this government is keen to do something and keen to do it rapidly, these are specifics which, from the point of view of the larger interest, we need to work together amongst the industry associations so that it is the vox populi. The more and more people who talk about it and who insist upon it, I think it will reach the right ears for the decision makers. And therefore, what exactly do we want to do? One is the kind of policies that we need to do on taxation, as I mentioned to you. But the other is ease of living, the quality of life. How do the Indian partners work with the foreign partners? I'll give you an example because I was in the telecom mobile industry. And at that time, it had just opened up in 1994, 1995. And it was open to foreign investments and foreign partners. So I was the CEO of the company called Modi Telstra. And my chairman was Dr. B.K. Modi. And our approach to the foreign partners, because all of them felt that India is a very difficult country. It's very difficult to work here. And for all the reasons which Ravindra Nath, you very rightly explained. We took over the handle of that and said, gentlemen, please do not worry about this part of it. This is our baby. We are partners, and we are partners in the real sense. You are come on a long-term 10-year license agreement. We people are here to partner with you and take care of your concerns. I mean, that comfort was given by the Indian partner. And as far as the foreign partner is concerned, they brought their technology. There was cellular, mobile, nobody knew what it is all about in India. They brought the technology, they brought their knowledge base, they brought their people, and we brought them the comfort that we will manage the India environment. I am quite convinced that while things are quite difficult here, apparently, but it is also not impossible to manage. If we know the right way of going about it, if we know that there is a whole process of getting things done, there are several layers, right from the political levels to the entrepreneurial levels to the bureaucrats in the government, and the vox populi, because it is a democracy, and in a democracy, it is not a dictatorial situation, so you can get things done, notwithstanding all the challenges which you very rightly brought out. So I think the role of the Indian partner, along with the foreign partner, becomes very relevant so that they get attracted to come and live in India. And if we can do that, then that is one aspect of it. And the other is specifically work with the government on personal issues of personal taxation. Because personal taxation, it hurts. And if it hurts, then the next step doesn't happen. So therefore, this is considered to be a major, major condition. At the same time, we do not want a situation where there is a misuse of that. And therefore, any proposal, any proposition that we put up has to be a win-win proposition. From a win-win perspective, I would say that there should be certain conditionalities when we talk about taxation. First and foremost, if the solution is win-win, let us put it like this, that as of today, there is no revenue loss to the government. Because in this global taxation business, because of the fear and the worry about it, nobody exceeds 182 days. So everybody lives within the context of 182, and therefore they do not develop a detailed interest. And at the same time, India doesn't gain anything, because when they don't pay for their global income, the question of tax loss doesn't arise. On the other hand, if they were long-term players and if they spend more time here, there will be more revenue generation within the country on which nobody is asking for any relief. They will have to pay the taxes. Taxes are applicable in India. So that is a very, very important factor of how this tax personal, because it is not a question of tax, it is a question of personal living concerns. Why should a person come and start paying tax, particularly with the uncertainty about the tax environment, with uncertainty about the policy? So we have been insisting with government that we are not looking for special clauses, we are not looking for any special dispensation. We are saying it is to be a policy change, it has to be incorporated in the law. Unless and until it is incorporated in the law, there is no way that a person will derive comfort, particularly because there is a history of changing situations, including the retrospective taxes. So we know the famous Vodafone case. So these things also cause worry. So we have to see that whatever we do is open, transparent, is a policy change, it becomes the law, and we are prepared to, shall we say, work our way. But we cannot work our way alone. We can only work in partnerships. So I personally have been engaging myself very actively in working with the industry association, and I'm very glad with my introduction to the ICSI and to the webinar, the MSME grouping, which Mr. Ravindra Nath has so rightly identified. They contribute over 90% of the total, employment potential here. It is something quite extraordinary, because they, for me, are vox populi. Now, with the revised definition of MSME, I think there is ground for us to be able to talk more about it. In that context, I also feel that the conditions should be such that we are talking of serious investors. So there should be some investment figure. There should be some time period for which they will stay. It should not be a laissez-faire that people just come and go, because then that doesn't give comfort to the government. So we need a fair policy, we need a long-term policy, and we need to have a strategic interest of people who will then take us forward in the new technology zone, where I see in India a tremendous potential. So these are some of the thoughts which I wanted to share with you, and we'll be happy to attend to any questions or any other points of discussion. Thank you so much, Ravindra Nath ji, and also Dr. Gulshan Sharma.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. A very insightful portrayal of what you perceive to be the challenges before our country. Uh, Sir, I have always believed that without challenges, there is no fun. And
Yes,
the biggest people who face the challenges and still walk forward are the MSMEs, I believe.
exactly.
Uh, Definitely, India needs to be doing considerable things if we have to reach the levels of Singapore. But then, if we also look back and see from where we started to where we have reached,
Good
from
progress.
142 to 63 is quite a move ahead.
Oh, yes.
I was definitely, without naming the Vodafone thing or certain other things, I said that uncertain regulatory framework has been a big deterrent. It is the environment, it is the ecosystem which we need to develop to attract all these people. Otherwise, the strength of India, uh, one of the pillars which the Honorable Prime Minister says demand, the demography, is what has been attracting the fair weather friends who come here, make money, and then fly out the moment things become difficult. At the same time, my experience during my working with the NSIC, I had the chance to work with a lot of countries in Africa, a lot of countries even in Southeast Asia, got a chance to work with even Russia. One thing which was very positive, which was very strong, was that all these countries look forward to Indian MSMEs with a lot of hope, with a lot of respect, and with a lot of eagerness to connect with.
Right.
And let me share with you, sir, the the tie-ups which we could make with Russian counterparts of NSIC, the South Korean counterparts of NSIC, the Small Business Corporation, or even in Malaysia, the SME Corp over there, they all wanted strong relationship to be built between Indian MSMEs and their MSMEs which are there in their part of the world, their
Absolutely.
countries. Russia looks forward to defense companies, automobile companies, textile companies, and the response when we visited them was so strong. Ki, can we have it today itself?
Absolutely.
That was a level of eagerness. And same is the position when we tied up with South Korea, we tied up with Malaysia. And that is what I have been very strongly advocating to Dr. Gulshan Sharma also, that our chamber, with the network which we can have with various similar like-minded people in different chambers in our country, we need to take the Indian MSME sector forward to all these players. And one thing which works, apart from other things which I like to come to, is the data. What we distinctly lack is whom to take forward, where to take them forward. This is something which is a challenge for the MSMEs also. They do not know. They require that hand holding. And whereas the foreigners are very eager. The South Koreans wanted that we should set up a technology exchange center, a technology transfer center. And let me share with you, Mr. Das, that I did it in NSIC. And the Honorable Minister for MSME in India, as well as the SME Minister of South Korea, they jointly inaugurated it. And this is what was the desire and the keenness of all these countries which I was mentioning to.
Sure, sure.
The operational difficulties I also found are quite similar in different countries also. When I look at Africa, the challenges are perhaps bigger than what we find in India. The size of India, the size of Indian states, they are almost equal to some of the countries which we have outside. And the uniqueness of India's functioning makes it even more difficult. And as you would be finding these days, there are people who are vying with each other when it comes to attracting, and probably in an overindulgence of things, do not realize as to what needs to be the priorities. But still, with all these things happening, I firmly believe, sir, that the future lies with our country. And
Absolutely.
especially if we have the leader like Honorable Modi Sahab, and the way he's steering the bureaucrats and the government machinery to be decisive in certain things, the way he's transforming the entire gamut of operations, I'm sure the ease of doing business would be even better. But what we need to understand is it needs to percolate down. We do not need to compromise on the quality. We do not need to compromise on the best practices. We need to imbibe them. We have been sharing so far that the world is a global village, but then it has to be made in such a way. It should not be that the globe lies outside our country and we are left only as a village over here. Right. We need to imbibe the best practices, as I said, take up the technology transfers which are there. And it's not only, I in no way believe in demeaning our MSMEs. I have engaged with several MSMEs, and let me share with you when what you call the Mars mission was achieved. There were 50 companies who are working with NSIC. Sure. And I happen to know a colonel who has set up his own company, who's into defense, and he's heading the satellite, the private satellites which need to go up. So that is what makes India so very proud of all these things.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
While we appreciate that there is an urgent need for upgrading of the infrastructure, upgrading of the utilities which are here, when it comes to water, it comes to power supply, it comes to road and rail. But when we also see by the side, the government is already engaged in doing all these things. I'm sure if we happen to travel by road, the roads are far better than what they used to be. And this is what is attracting. If you just go out of
Delhi,
Delhi,
visible happening. The road, this infrastructure is visible happening.
And since you mentioned about Delhi, we just go out of Delhi and we on way to Jaipur, and we find that the Japanese are strongly entrenched in one of those places which are there. And this is what the others are also asking for. Okay. I'm sure, sir, your ideas which are there today, your improvement areas which you have mentioned would definitely be shared and taken up further. And I always believe, unless we synergize between ourselves, the forums, the chambers, the industry associations, if we become one, if the bonding becomes stronger, there is no stopping Indian MSMEs.
Let me tell you one thing, Mr. Ravindra Nath, that I am convinced that the MSME industry in particular is structurally in a very strong position. You see, you have our minister, Gadkari.
Yes.
Mr. Gadkari is one of the entrepreneurial ministers that we have.
Absolutely.
Very strong. And he is a minister whose voice is heard at all levels, including the Honorable Prime Minister also gives due credence to his advice. He is a great one. You have Mr. A.K. Sharma, who is the secretary.
Absolutely.
Again, a very far-reaching person who comes from a PMO background also.
Absolutely.
He also understands the pulse of things. And I would like to say, Dr. Gulshan Sharma, that ICSI type of association, which can build the MSME group together. And under your, enlightened leadership, Mr. Ravindra Nath, I feel that MSME sector is a champion sector for India, both in terms of numbers, in terms of their potential, and the fact that the new technologies do not need very, very high investments.
Exactly.
So when we talk of blockchain, or when we talk of artificial intelligence or robotics, we are not talking of very huge investments.
Very much.
The MSME has been redefined anyway up to 250 crores now.
Absolutely, sir.
So there is a lot of changes which have happened, and we should try to see. And because of MSME and the interest being taken at the highest level, policy changes may be more. In fact, you may be the leader for policy changes, because what happens here will then reflect in the other groupings also. It is no longer going to be a situation that MSMEs are, second rate in any way whatsoever. But then that is the industry association's tremendous role, and as you rightly said, working together with other associations. To the extent that I can be of some assistance to you on that, I will certainly be very happy to do that.
Thank you.
The other chair.
Thank you very much, sir. And as you also very rightly mentioned, if at all there was any time, it is now, because we have a prime minister who carries a vision.
Correct.
We have an MSME minister who thinks like an entrepreneur.
That's right.
And what better situation would MSMEs ever demand?
You cannot have it better.
We cannot have it better. And since I have had a very close experience of working with the government, I always believe, while I am a diehard optimist, even in this pandemic, I used to say the best of India's time is still to come. And similarly, that time is coming. Industry associations, if they work in silos, they will be all left aside.
Correct.
If they work together and they emerge till the national level, they think for each other, they believe in each other, we are an impregnable force when it comes to...
Absolutely. You said it. We have to have an alignment of views. The problem generally arises in everybody talking different languages. So then the government finds it difficult to take a view. I think it's important that on key issue, there should be more alignment of...
Very much, sir. So thank you once again, Dr. Gulshan Sharma, for providing us this opportunity. And I'm sure with the views of Mr. Umang Das, we have been enlightened. We will definitely like to take these views forward. And I would request that Mr. Das kindly spare some time, even in future, where we can interact and build certain thoughts for the government, so that if we can bring about certain changes, we would be having achieved what we aspire for.
We will be only too happy. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Dr. Saab. It's over to you now.
You're muted.
Sir, please unmute yourself.
I wish to submit in a very polite way, while conveying my deepest gratitudes and thanks to you, that for 3 years, our chamber has been going to the corridors of the Ministry of MSME, and we have been meeting Dr. Arun Panda, Ram Mohan Mishra ji, the honorable ministers, union ministers, state minister, and our push was always that services sector to be brought at par with the manufacturing sector. And then we had gone to NSIC, and that is the time we met CMD Ravindra Nath ji right over there in Okhla. And we took the journey forward, and we are so happy that the other day, the Honorable Finance Minister of India, Nirmala Sitharaman ji, she announced that, ladies and gentlemen, from here onward in the MSME sector, the services sector is now at par with the manufacturing sector.
Okay.
It gives us so much of soothing, it gives us so much of happiness that 3 years, any paper they asked, they wanted a backgrounder paper, roadmap, action plan, strategy paper, and all the time the additional secretary and secretary had been pushing us, get us this input, how it can be done, what are the areas, what should be taken from the services sector. 12 sectors were selected by the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India, got the green signal from the Prime Minister's office, and thereafter we submitted the papers, and finally it gives you so much of happiness that you forget your 3 years journey. You say, oh, it's a 3 hours hard work only, and finally it has got through. And sir, there is a deep hug to you from Mr. Malhotra, and he is mentioned in, I would say, I was so happy he has mentioned in the YouTube, ladies and gentlemen, that Mr. Umang Das ji, the fellow Rotarian, is my classmate. He is my batchmate. We passed out in December 1970 together. He's posting that in YouTube.
My pleasure.
So that is called brotherhood and friendship and everything. So we are grateful to Malhotra Saab also. We are grateful to you, sir, for having come on this. Yes, sir.
Dr. Saab, I'd just like to mention it even before Mr. Das, that I have been urging Mr. Malhotra to leave Faridabad for some of his juniors and come to the national level, so that to share. मैंने कहा ये भीष्म पितामह national level पे आके बनिए, ये फरीदाबाद छोड़ दीजिए आप. I hope Mr. Malhotra listens to me someday.
I will second your voice now, Mr. Ravindra.
Yes, and you would be so happy to know, sir, before this webinar, the webinar which we had, in that there was a gentleman from Singapore who is the CEO of the company called, it's right over here with me, it's a MyFINB Group Singapore. And they are coming with us in the SME sector, and they are organizing 3 hours artificial intelligence training program in partnership with our chamber in India for the new emerging potential people. Those are for the retail sector and agriculture startup, that is organic farming.
Very good.
Wonderful, wonderful.
So, that is something. And with Singapore, another linkage. 3 years, we had a president from Singapore for this chamber, Karan Singh Thakral Group of Companies. He was the president of this chamber from Singapore.
Excellent.
So a lot of linkages are there. So with these words, our deep thanks and gratitude to Umang Das ji, the chairman, the foreign investment, what has to come to India, the Investors Forum, and our deep gratitudes and thanks to Ravindra Nath ji for moderating, deliberating, bringing the entire confluence this evening, and all the people, those who have joined us world over in the different countries, different continents, different time zones. Thank you very much for your most valuable time. Look forward meeting you for the next deliberations for the MSME sector next Sunday at 5 p.m. in the evening, Indian Standard Time. Stay tuned in. During the week, we have got lots of programs, and tomorrow is a very important day. There are 38 sector skill councils under the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship Government of India. And tomorrow evening, 5 o'clock, you have got Tata Consultancy Services Vice President coming. And 6:30, you have got the CEO of the Media Entertainment Sector Skill Council coming, that how they are getting into now with the new education policy in the school, colleges, vocational skills and competencies. With these words,